Welcome to Sports Insider here on cleveland.com. Chris Fedor, Bud Shaw with you. We've got Game 4 of the NBA Finals tonight, Cavs and Warriors. Also, Indians in action right now against the Seattle Mariners. We'll talk to Paul Hoynes, one half of our Indians beat reporting team, coming up in about 10 minutes. And right now, Browns OTAs, something else that's going on here in Cleveland. Busy time to be a Cleveland sports fan. And let's welcome in our first guest. It is Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter. What's going on, Mary Kay?
Well, here at OTAs today, and it's kind of business as usual. Tayshaun Gibson's still not here. Johnny's still taking the second team reps behind Josh McCown. Dwayne Bowe had tweaked a knee last week, but he's back out there in practice. And then Danny Shelton, their number one pick, is still out in Washington getting his degree in anthropology and not here yet.
Mary Kay, when it comes to Dwayne Bowe, you mentioned it. He tweaked his knee last time, and he is on the practice field today. So that was just something minor with him, nothing that anybody should be alarmed about. He was one of the big free agent pickups of the offseason.
Yeah, nothing anybody should be alarmed about. He's out there. He's out there today. He's running around practicing and looks pretty good. So originally, Mike Pettin didn't think it was anything serious, and it's proven that that's correct.
Mary Kay, when you talk to Browns personnel, coaches, whoever, about Bowe, how do they account for the fact that he went an entire season last year without any touchdowns? I know other wide receivers, I think maybe all of the other wide receivers did. Do they chalk that up to the Kansas City offense?
Yes, all of the other receivers went without a touchdown catch. None of them had one. And it's absolutely incredible that happened. But it is true. They all went to the backs and the tight ends. And I don't know. I haven't really studied it enough to see exactly what happened. But it seems unfathomable that you can have a big target like that and that he can go the entire season without catching a touchdown pass, considering that he caught 15 of them in 2010. So we do have to dig into that a little bit more. I think, you're right, Bud. That would make an interesting story to go back and kind of investigate how that can happen, because it's really actually almost unheard of.
Mary Kay, when it comes to the wide receiver position, that's been an area that a lot of fans have pointed to in recent years. Obviously, the Browns don't have that one difference-making guy, but what they do have is numbers, it seems like. You've got Dwayne Bowe, you've got Brian Hartline, Andrew Hawkins, of course, Taylor Gabriel, who kind of emerged out of nowhere last year, the kid that they drafted this year. Is there somebody that could be on the chopping block, somebody that fans would recognize that may have his spot be in jeopardy because of the numbers game?
I suppose there could be, but, more so than anything, I think you would be talking about more like, the Marlon Moores or guys like that that aren't as recognizable as the big names. I don't think, you're going to see anything happen with the new guys. I don't think that you're going to see anything really happen with Hawk or Taylor Gabriel. So it would be maybe some of those second or third tier guys that we really don't hear that much about. And Vince Mailey, I'm working on a little story on him right now. It's kind of a funny little story, so watch for that in a little while on cleveland.com. But he's somebody that they have high hopes for, and he looks the part. He's got the size. He's got the, he has the physical ability, and they are really hoping that their fourth round pick can come through for them.
All right, we're going to put you on the spot. If you had to pick right now one guy who's going to lead the team in receptions this season, who would it be?
I'm going to say Andrew Hawkins.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to say Andrew Hawkins for right now.
And
not Duke Johnson.
Well, they are going to throw more to the backs coming out of the backfield this year, but I do think that one of the receivers will probably get more than he will.
I hope for your sake, for the Browns fans' sake, you're right.
Now, Mary Kay, the other question is tight end. Obviously, Jordan Cameron no longer around. Do you feel like the Browns are okay with where they are at tight end? Because I've gotten some people here on social media. You know what happens, Mary Kay. When anybody gets released, people will ask you about whether that guy's a fit for the Browns. And Timothy Wright got released by the New England Patriots. Do you feel like the Browns are okay at tight end, or are they still looking, exploring, seeing if they can upgrade?
Well, they're always, I'll give you a company line. They're always looking to upgrade the team, of course. I don't know if they're interested in him or not, but I think they do feel pretty good about what they have. They're pretty excited about Rob Howler. They like the room. And actually, I do in some ways think that that Gary Barnidge is a little underrated. And, I think, he can do some things. Jim Gray can get some things done for them. Now, as far as Randall Telfer, the tight end that they drafted, he had that mid-foot surgery, that Liz Frank type of surgery. And, it takes a while to come back from that. So I think that this might end up being sort of a redshirt year for him. But, they seem okay with what they have there. I look around, I don't see a Jordan Cameron out there anywhere. But they seem to have a good feeling about these guys.
Mary Kay, you wrote a story about Jim Brown and the interaction he had with LeBron James at the game the other night. And he called that, I believe, one of the highlights of his career, life, however he phrased that. This is a guy who's done amazing things in his life, including making a movie with Raquel Welch. I'll explain that reference to Fedor later on. Why do you think he was so touched by that?
Well, yeah, he did. He called it one of his favorite sports moments of all time when I was on the phone with him yesterday. And, I just think it was because he's gotten to a point in his life where he is almost 80 years old. And to be able to sit at that game at that moment and have arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, bow to him like that and acknowledge him just moments. I mean, it was like seconds before tip-off. It just meant so much to him that, someone from this new modern era would take out the time to do that. And it showed to him the kind of character that LeBron has and how he's sort of wise beyond his years a little bit and how he knew that would mean so much, to the people in the crowd and to Jim and just how it was the right thing to do. So I think it meant a lot to him on a lot of different levels.
Mary Kay, I was at Browns Fan Fest last weekend, and I was getting a lot of questions about one specific thing in general. They brought back some of the legends. You mentioned Jim Brown. He was there. I believe Paul Warfield was there as well. A lot of people wonder, why does Bernie Kosar not attend things along those lines, considering his popularity in this town? It seems like, from the outside looking in, that the Browns don't want Bernie to be a huge part of the organization. Is that accurate?
Well, you know what? That's another thing that, probably begs a little bit more digging around. But, we do know that one of the last things that we heard from Bernie about this team was, completely ripping the organization to high heavens for its dealings with quarterbacks. And, I mean, it was a scathing takedown. And, if you guys remember it,
yep.
It started right at the top and went all the way through and talked about how that they'll ruin any young quarterback and it's dysfunctional and so those kind of things. So I do think that in order for him to be included in the Browns' own fan fest, that there would probably have to be some mending of the fences, I think. Nobody has admitted that. Nobody will say that. But you just have to look at what's gone on in the past year or so with him being taken off the broadcast and then his response to, the quarterback situation, how they handle things, and Johnny Manziel and that kind of thing. I just don't think the climate is right now for him to attend their fan fest.
Mary Kay, you've mentioned Cam Irving, one of the first-round picks for the Browns. He's somebody who's been moved all over the place so far this offseason. What do you feel like is their ultimate plan for him, at least this year?
Wow, that's a really good question because they are so set at at least three of the positions. So he's going to have to try to take John Greco's job or Mitchell Schwartz's job, and I don't even know if they know for sure yet which job he would probably try to take over. And will he do it right away? That's another thing. This is not a regime that feels like they have to rush their rookies in there, although you would think a number 19 overall pick would start right away. And the way they talk about him, you think that's the expectation. But it's going to be one of those positions, and I think those guys are going to give him a good run for his money. I think that, they probably performed better than some people might think. I know Mitchell Schwartz takes a little bit of a bad rap, but, he doesn't grade out as poorly, it seems, as though, some people seem to think that he plays. So I think that Cam's going to have a good, hard time digging in there and beating one of those guys out.
Mary Kay, one final question. How long do you think it'll take for the Browns to see the light and sign Matthew Dellavedova when the season is over?
Wow, that would be something. That
Where would you play him? Where would you put him? Where would he play?
Safety.
Now, I like it. Everybody wants to know who's going to be the next Dante Whitner. It could be Matthew Dellavedova.
Yeah, he would be scrappy. He would play like a Brown, I can tell you that right now.
Whatever that means. We still don't quite know what that means, but we hope to find out this year.
Mary Kay, what else are you going to be looking at today for OTAs? You mentioned the Vince Mailey piece that you have, but is there something else that you're going to be focusing today on in OTAs?
You know what? I really enjoy watching the secondary. This secondary is so good, and Tayshaun Gibson's not even here. And I don't care who's out there playing quarterback right now. It doesn't really matter. I really believe, that they could have Peyton Manning and Tom Brady out there, and these guys are going to be batting down balls, getting interceptions. They had 21 last year. That was second in the league. We talked to the secondary coach today, Jeff Hapley. He said they were really disappointed that they didn't finish number one. That's their goal this year. And these guys are pretty incredible that way, and they will prepare these quarterbacks and these receivers for the season.
All right, Mary Kay, good stuff. Enjoy OTAs today.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
All right, there she is, our Browns beat reporter Mary Kay Cabot. Coming up shortly, we'll have our Indians beat reporter Paul Hoynes.
In the meantime, I would love to put that theory to the test just once.
Just once?
And bring out Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
I'd love to have a guy
in Browns uniforms.
I'd love to have a guy that looked like Peyton Manning in a Browns uniform, bud. That would be nice.
Just to see how good. I don't doubt that secondary is good, but it would be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to play this year. That was one of the strengths of the team going into last year, but at the same time, it seemed like when they needed to step up and make a big play, they weren't necessarily able to make that.
I think it's a great point. There were a lot of drives that were kept alive that you would have thought that they could have got off the field and didn't.
Right. I mean, if you want to be an elite defense, if you want to take it to that next level, I think that's where it really comes into play, when you absolutely have to get a stop or you have to get off the field on third down. Are you able to do that?
The other thing that I'm going to be anxious to see as training camp develops is, when Mike Pettin was his last year in Buffalo, that team was last in the league in run defense. His first year here as a head coach, this team was last in the league in run defense. And I'm not saying that necessarily is a poor reflection on him, but certainly if they're not going to stop the run better this year, that secondary is probably not going to show as well as it can.
Right. And that's why, if you look at what the Browns did in the first round of the draft, why their first pick, obviously, was a guy like Danny Shelton. And kudos to him finishing school, and he's not going to be there at OTAs, but you just wonder, I think, or at least I wonder, when you're talking about reps for a rookie and time for a rookie, there are only so many opportunities for you to get comfortable on the defense, to hone your craft, and you wonder if something like this is going to set him back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NFL gets a little carried away sometimes with all of these OTAs and the importance of every single session and going right into a mini camp in June and all that. You see why players seek some sort of protection against the workload and the demands that are put on them. But for any rookie, especially a guy like that, I mean, it's going to hurt him eventually if he loses too many of these sessions.
Let's go to our next guest, Indians beat reporter Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, what's going on, buddy?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Doing great. I know you're taking in some afternoon baseball. Indians and Mariners in the afternoon, Cavs and Warriors at night. The city of Cleveland is buzzing, Hoynesy.
That was really cool the other night. Tuesday, I think, when the Cavs played, and you could hear all the crowd noise kind of drifting over into the Indians ballpark, and it was like the Indians were just kind of like, they were playing in the basement somewhere, and the real attention was where it should be on the Cavs. But it was fun. It was a fun venue.
Hoynesy, let's start with the roster moves lately for the Indians. They decided Lonnie Chisenhall, AAA, but the thing that so many people are wondering, why not Francisco Lindor to come up in this wave of roster moves?
Well, from talking to the Indians, they still don't feel he's ready yet. It has nothing to do with his, having some, kind of minor injuries. It's just that they want him to play at a higher level right now. And I think, I don't think the Super 2 status is involved anymore. I think if they wanted him here, if they felt he could help them, he'd be here. So, I just think they want to see him play a little more, get a little more experience, and just, kind of lift his play.
Paul, I've had a couple people ask me this, so I'll ask you. Did they take as long as they did in making this move with Chisenhall out of deference to him and the way Francona deals with, his respect for veteran players, or did they just think that there wasn't someone in the minors that they thought was an improvement?
Well, I think Giovanni Urshela, the kid they brought up, he's only played like 20 games in the minors at AAA this year. He hurt his back in spring training, and he was the guy that, if they were going to make a move with Chisenhall, he was the guy that was going to come up. So I think they were just waiting for him to, get to be able to play 2, 3, 4 games in a row, kind of get his legs under him before they made the move. But obviously, if Chisenhall had been playing better, they would have never made them. But this is because Urshela had a back problem in spring training, missed all of camp, basically, and then when he did get activated and sent to Columbus, he hurt his back again and went on the DN. So Urshela was the guy, but they wanted him to get a little, just play a few games in a row before they made the move. I think.
Hoynes, I had a guy email me and refer to Lonnie as Matt Chisenhall. Are we going to see Chisenhall again, or is he going to be Matt Laporta at some point in his career?
Laporta, was injured. He had the bad hip. He had injuries. Lonnie, had some injuries early in his career, but never career-threatening. I think he's just gone backward. I mean, when he first came up, you just saw, he had that free, easy swing. It generated a lot of power. And, he had strikeouts, but, the last couple of years he's changed his stance. He's changed the way he's hit. It looks like he's really closed off to me. You don't see that power too much anymore. He's become almost a singles hitter to me. And he just doesn't look like the same guy. And, I would not be surprised if they traded him or if there's a move to be made that, he just kind of, this might be the last time we see him because, he's been in the organization 8 years, the number one pick. They've given this guy every chance, and they just haven't seen it. They just haven't seen what they thought they were getting. So I would think this, if he makes it back, it's going to be at, kind of a crossroads. Well, let's just say this is a crossroads from him. And if Urshela takes off, I think, the writing's on the wall. This guy's gone.
Are they more disappointed with his offense, Hoynesy, or his defense?
Offensively, definitely. They, in fact, if you look at his URL rankings and all the, defensive metrics, he's one of the better defensive third basemen in the American League. But they're not getting anything They're not getting anything offensively out of him. I think he's hitting 140 with runners in scoring position. He's just, he was an automatic out almost.
So, Hoynesy, now what can we expect from a guy like Zach Walters? A little bit last year, he showed some flashes after coming over in that trade, but obviously he doesn't make the team coming out of spring training. So what are the expectations when it comes to him?
Well, he was another guy like Urshela that was hurt in camp. He strained the oblique. It took him, almost all of spring training to kind of recover from that. This is a guy that, has got a lot of power, but he strikes out a lot. And, he's really, they're trying to make him a utility guy, kind of the next Mike Aviles, have him play all over. But the plus side of his game is the power. The minus side is he's got he swings and misses a lot. And you really, you don't, so if he's not hitting home runs or he's not driving the ball, you're going to, it's kind of it's not a positive. I mean, he's not going to give you a whole lot. But right now, he hit like 10, 11 home runs between Washington and the Indians last year. and that's what they're counting on. But I don't think he's homered. He hasn't hit a home run in the big leagues this year, and this is his second tour with the Tribe. So we'll see.
Paul, I think the Indians are now 7.5 out of first. If that's where they're sitting at the All-Star break, do you take take that as a sign that this is a team that will be competing for a division title late in the season, or do you think you still need to see some other elements some other improved elements of the team?
Well, I think Bud, with the two wild card things, the two wild card teams now in both leagues, that really kind of muddies the water, so to speak, as far as are you a buyer or a seller. If you're 7.5 out at the All-Star break, you're probably not. You're probably not going to be a contender for the division title, but you still might have a shot at the wild card, one of the wild cards. The Indians kind of basically in that position last year, and wound up being in contention right into the last weekend of the season for the wild card spot. So, I think it's a team that's kind of a just when you think they turned a corner, they went on that trip. They had a 5-2 trip, Kansas City and Seattle, and they come home and fall flat in their face. They've lost 4 of their last 5, and this is a team that never really gets too much traction. It doesn't look like to me, and everyone talks about their pitching staff and their rotation, and they've done a nice job there, but. It just seems like they can never, they never all pull on the same end of the rope at the same time.
Trevor Bauer yesterday, Hoynes, 3 2/3, 6 earned runs, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. Was yesterday's performance against Seattle just an aberration, or was this something that we could see coming, given the way that he has been walking guys in his recent appearances?
It was funny. He walked about 4 or 5 guys his last time out before this last night against Kansas City, and he still won. And after the game, he kind of went on a rant, said he didn't care about walks. Who cares about walks as long as they don't score? And once he walked 5 guys yesterday, and 4 of them come around to score. So the baseball gods got him, I guess. Really, if you look at his body of work, he's pitched pretty well, but he has a lot of walks. I think he's walked 34 guys. The most, highest, he leads a rotation in the Indians' rotation. So when you do that, and you fall behind a guy like Seager, you're really, you're walking on thin ice, and they caught up to him. You can't continually pitch like that and win. You can't walk 5-6 guys a night and win, because eventually, it catches up to you.
All right, Hoynes, good stuff. Get ready for the Giovanni Urshela show. We're all looking forward to it.
Can hardly wait.
All right, there he is, Indians beat reporter Paul Hoynes. Thanks again, Hoynes. Indians playing the Mariners, a little afternoon baseball, and then later tonight, Game 4 of the NBA Finals.
People who tune in here, and I assume everyone in the city watches
Obviously.
this show, they always hear Paul laugh, and what they don't understand is that's the only attitude you can have when you've covered baseball for as long as he has. I mean, when you think about some of the things he has seen over the course of 3 decades, I'm glad he's laughing, because the alternative is to weep openly.
That is true. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
For your spin-offs?
I am.
All right. I look forward to this every single Thursday, Bud. It is Bud Shaw's spin-offs.
If we had a side camera view, you could see how his nose grows when he says that. Well, anyway, thanks. Clevelanders don't agree on much when it comes to their teams, other than to say that 51 years is a long time to sit on a curb waiting for a parade to start. But everyone agrees that the Cavs are lucky to have Matthew Dellavedova for this playoff run, even though that wasn't exactly the sentiment during the regular season. How crazy is all this Delly mania? Well, I think it's made us reconsider things that have happened in history. The fact that the Confederate Army didn't have Delhi during the Civil War is now believed to be the #1 reason why they lost to the North in 6, or would you say 7?
7.
Okay. Many of us saw our portfolios and life savings go down the tubes a few years back. We now believe that to be expressly because Delly came to America and became a basketball player and not a Wall Street guy. At least Cleveland is enjoying the benefit of that decision now that Delly mania is a full-blown happening. He can do no wrong, according to some people, even when he has 6 turnovers and shoots 3 for 10, as he did in Game 2. And now we have 2 more subplots to add to the Delhi legend, his crucial basket from Game 3 and the post-game trip to the hospital. The latter prompted this headline and story from comedian Andy Borowitz, whose Borowitz report is a must-read. Dellavedova breaks arms, legs, and neck. Will play Game 4. The Borowitz satire goes on to quote Dellavedova saying, "I'm not going to give less than 100% just because I'm playing without a spinal column." At least I think it's satire. From the Twitter handle Dellavedova Facts comes this. Stephen Curry started a relaxing shower in his hotel room and Delhi handed him the soap. Funny, but we all know that Dellavedova isn't giving Curry anything these days. Delhi is stingy on defense and willing to throw his body everywhere and anywhere if it means making a play. There is much about him to admire. There also are limits to his skill set. It's why he went undrafted, and in fact, it's a large part of his appeal. But Delhi Mania is Delhi Mania, and that's the only explanation for the following comment, which says, "In fairness to Stephen Curry, I believe he chooses binky better than Delhi. That's the only skill set I've seen where Curry is superior to Delhi in this series." Yeah, that and ball handling, passing, quickness, and ability to draw a double team whenever he comes off a screen. Other than that, it's pretty much a dead heat. Finally, and Chris loves it when I say finally, Delhi memes are all the rage. People can't get enough of the Australian, unfortunately, in this case. One more big game, and it's scary to think where the Delhi obsession will take us other than once we've seen Kung Fu Kangaroo. Maybe Delhi as the most interesting man in the world? I can hear it now. He once brought a knife to a gunfight just to even the odds. Chris?
How about this, Bud? So yesterday, in media availability, Steph Curry is sitting up there at the podium, and right next to him is Andre Iguodala. And somebody actually asked Steph Curry about him being outplayed in this series by Matthew Dellavedova.
Listen, anytime the diff
The
is going to be 7 points between the two, it favors the Cavs.
Yep.
But anyone who doesn't still see Steph Curry's brilliance and excellence, I think is missing the point. I had a friend email me this, and he said it better than I could. He said the Cavaliers are playing with a warrior attitude. The Warriors are playing with a Cavalier attitude.
Well, that's pretty good.
Not bad, right? But it's also pretty dead on. I just don't think Golden State has yet seen or yet felt the immediacy and urgency that the Cavaliers have obviously felt, probably brought on in part by Kyrie Irving's injury.
So is that what you think it is?
It
Because
feels like it.
I've been wondering, I'm thinking,
like
if you're Golden State, you're here in the NBA Finals for the first time. If you're the Cavs, obviously there's motivation on each side. And it seems like you're right. It seems like one team is giving it their all and hustling for the 50-50 balls and doing the little things that a team has to do to win an NBA championship, and the other isn't. And I've been asking myself, why is that? Because Draymond Green's somebody who was a second-round pick, and he's a hustler. And, Andrew Bogut, he does some dirty work, and Festus Ezeli, but it seems like every loose ball is going to the Cavs.
Yeah, it certainly does. And now you're seeing, guys my age dive on the floor. Sorry, Mike Miller and James Jones. That's just a joke. You're seeing LeBron.
Yeah.
I think you referred to it as a rolling body block or whatever that he threw on Curry. Which
Slide tackle.
Slide tackle.
Red card.
Pretty accurate. You're seeing those kinds of guys. It's funny that, we all started this NBA Finals saying that if these guys could follow LeBron's lead, they might have a chance in the series. And in some ways, they're following Dellavedova's defensive lead, and that's why I think they're up 2-1 right now.
How are you feeling about tonight's game?
I think the Cavs win. I expect to see a different Golden State team, though. I really do. I was taken aback a little bit, and I compared kind of Curry to LeBron in 2007 in the thing that I wrote, because it struck me that LeBron in that first game in 2007 took 16 shots. He was 4 for 16.
Yeah.
he finishes that series going 10 for 30. I mean, he clearly saw that trying to get everybody else involved and doing, making the right basketball play, which is, I think, what Steph Curry tried to do in that game in Game 3. And I think he's seen now that he's going to have to be the fourth quarter Steph Curry for this team to have a chance.
I think the amazing thing is, if you were to ask Golden State their defensive game plan and the Cavs their defensive game plan, it's complete opposites. When you have two great players, Bud, you have to try and make them do things that they don't want to do. And Golden State says, LeBron wants to pass. LeBron wants to get his teammates involved. So we're going to try and prevent him from doing those things. And the result has been the Cavs have not scored more than 100 yet in the 3 games. So their defensive plan has been pretty good. Even though LeBron has been historically great in the first 3 games, they've been right there. Whereas if you ask the Cavs, it's, we're okay with Harrison Barnes. We're okay with Draymond Green. We're okay with Andre Iguodala. We cannot let Steph Curry and Klay Thompson beat us. It's just fascinating to me, the different styles and the different game plans from these
The one
teams.
thing I'll say is that in letting LeBron dominate the ball as much as he is, I agree with him. They're not letting him. They're not letting him get 40. I don't mean that.
No.
But clearly, they're not trying to take the ball out of his hands early in the shot clock. And I think if they do that a few more times in Game 4, we may see the Cavs' offense get speeded up a little.
Yeah.
And right now, it's not.
Right.
I mean, LeBron is bleeding that clock down to whatever he wants it to be before he takes a shot. And he's making enough of them that these guys are paying a high price for letting him have the ball so much.
Game 4 NBA Finals, Cavs and Warriors tonight. Also thanks to Mary Kay Cabot, our Browns beat reporter, joining us from Browns OTAs. Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat reporter, talking about the latest roster moves by the Indians. They're in action right now this afternoon at Progressive Field against the Seattle Mariners. And thanks to all of you for joining us today on Sports Insider here on cleveland.com, and for Bud for filling in admirably for Dan Lobby. And stay tuned. Coming up in just a few minutes, we will be doing Cavs Insider, a preview of Game 4 of the NBA Finals right here on cleveland.com.